Good morning. We gather in this spring that is full of every season. The warmth, the rain, the chill, the wild diversity that makes life possible. We gather here to remember the wholeness of our lives. The joy that comes from being whole even if things are difficult. The joy that comes from feeling all of the seasons, from feeling the earth under our feet, the wind on our skin, seeing the stars over us, hearing that rain fall in the night. We come here to gather the joy that comes from hearing each other's stories, even if they are not always happy stories. We come here to gather up the joy that comes from remembering who we really are. We come here to gather up the joy of being together. Roy Jones will light our chalice this morning, and I invite you to join in speaking the words of our covenant that are printed in the order of service. Love
is the doctrine of the church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humanity in fellowship, to respect and nurture the power within all of us. Thus do we covenant.
Our opening hymn this morning, hymn 399, Vine and Fig Tree, is one that is likely familiar to you. Lindsay Jean will lead us in singing it a cappella. We'll sing it 3 times through, and during the third and last time, Lindsay Jean and the children are going to sneak out the side door and go out into the joy of the garden and get their hands and feet probably in the dirt, and we will reunite with them in the yard for our Elm Dance at the end of our service.
Vine and fig tree shall live in peace and unafraid, and everyone beneath the vine and fig tree shall live in peace and unafraid. And into plowshares turn their swords, nations shall learn war no more. And into plowshares turn their swords, nations shall learn war no more. And everyone neath the vine and fig tree shall live in peace and unafraid. And everyone neath the vine and fig tree shall live in peace and unafraid. And into plowshares turn their swords, nations shall learn war no more. And into plowshares turn their swords, nations shall learn war no more. And everyone neath the vine and fig tree shall live in peace and unafraid. And everyone neath the vine and fig tree shall live in peace and unafraid. And into plowshares turn their swords, nations shall learn war no more. And into plowshares turn their swords, nations shall learn war no more.
The reading this morning is from a collection called the Terma Collective. It's from a collection of words written by a group of people called the Terma Collective. This particular piece is in a book called Life Prayers, and it's also one of these pieces you can Google and it just comes right up.
So
May our eyes remain open even in the face of tragedy. May we not become disheartened. May we find in the dissolution of our apathy and denial the cup of the broken heart. May we discover the gift of the fire burning in the inner chamber of our being, burning great and bright enough to transform any poison. May we offer the power of our sorrow to the service of something greater than ourselves. May our guilt not rise up to form another defensive wall. May the suffering purify and not paralyze us. May we endure. May sorrow bond us and not separate us. May we realize the greatness of our sorrow and not run from its touch or its flame. May clarity be our ally and wisdom our support. May our wrath be cleansing, cutting through the confusion of denial and greed. May we not be afraid to see or speak our truth. May the bleakness of the wasteland be dispelled. May the soul's journey be revealed and the true hunger fed. May we be forgiven for what we have forgotten and blessed with the remembrance of who we really are. Part of remembering who we are is knowing ourselves to be connected to others, humans and the rest of the earth. We hear the moments in life that carry us through and the moments when we struggle and are still always ourselves and fully human. I invite you into a meditation with another short reading from the Terma Collective. And I'm going to read this through twice. And listen if one of the lines in this reading is the mantra for your day or week. So hearing it 2 times, you may find that one of the phrases asks for your attention, and hold on to that one, and you might use it as a mantra during our quiet time together. Just repeat it to yourself over and over again. Or you can write it on one of those little pieces of paper and take it with you for the day. May my feet rest firmly on the ground. May my head touch the sky. May I see clearly. May I have the capacity to listen. May I be free to touch. May my words be true. May my heart and mind be open. May my hands be empty to fill the need. my arms be open to others. May my gifts be revealed to me, so I may return that which has been given, completing the great circle. May my feet rest firmly on the ground. May my head touch the sky. May I see clearly. May I have the capacity to listen. May I be free to touch. May my words be true. May my heart and mind be open. May my hands be empty to fill the need. May my arms be open to others. May my gifts be revealed to me, so that I may return that which has been given, completing the great circle. On Memorial Day weekend, we often hold several things in tension. There are cookouts and maybe time at the beach and that sense of freedom in the summer upon us. And it is a time to remember loss and to remember the ravages of war. And we have to hold all of that together. And so when you light your candles during this offering time, I invite you to notice that you are holding all of those things in your heart and in your experience, probably in your physical being. The joy of the growing green and the sorrow of the losses. Maybe we need extra candles today, and we have them. I invite you to make offerings to joy, offerings to sorrow and memory, and make an offering to this church community to support it, to support the memories that it holds, and to support it growing and going forward. Candles are available all along the front up here. The morning offering for the memory and the joy of this congregation. Now be received. Brad's going to help me, and we'll all help each other, because I'm hoping that we know this one.
You I receive, to you I give, together we share, and from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and from this we live.
May we be forgiven for what we have forgotten, and blessed with the remembrance of who we really are. I was reminded recently of this story told by meditation teacher Sharon Salzberg. There are many versions of this story told, and I'm combining a few of them here. So she was at a meditation gathering in India in the 1990s, and there were a lot of people from the Western world gathered there, meeting with the Dalai Lama. So they've been really thinking and practicing together, and then they had a chance to sit with the Dalai Lama and ask some questions. So lots of really important questions got asked, and then Sharon Salzberg asked the Dalai Lama, so what do you think about self-hatred? And the Dalai Lama, then he turned to his translator, because he thought maybe it was a translation issue. And then he and his translator conferred for a while, and they called in another translator and then conferred for a while. And finally he said, I'm not sure what you mean. And then they had to spend some time having a discussion there about what self-hatred meant. And they went around and around on it, and the Dalai Lama just didn't understand it. And he said, how could you think of yourself that way? And then at the end he said, I thought I was very well acquainted with the mind, but now I feel quite ignorant. This is very, very strange. This question actually was presented to the Dalai Lama many times over the course of his work around the world with people around the world, but it turns out that particularly people in the Western culture asked this question. And he was puzzled by the deep forgetting of what he talks about as Buddha nature, which is the consciousness that we all carry, the capacity, as Sharon Salzberg says, the capacity for awareness and love. That's the core of who we really are. And that if we essentially hate ourselves, we've completely lost that. And he was, well, obviously he couldn't quite understand how people could get there. He was the Dalai Lama, but his culture had another grounding in this capacity for love and awareness, and that was the core of who we are, and that carries us through all of the tumults and uncertainty and brokenness of this life. May we not be afraid to see or speak our truth. May the bleakness of the wasteland be dispelled. May the soul's journey be revealed and the true hunger fed. The piece that's amazing about the Dalai Lama's inability to understand self-hatred is that it means that if you live in a culture where that's running around, either inside your own head or in the cultural national conversation, if there's self-hatred in the larger conversation, that it's not just a given that people are like that. It's not something that's inherent to human nature. It's something that has been constructed in our story. It's something that we tell ourselves, but it's not essential. Because when that question gets handed to someone who's outside of our story, either our national story or our personal story, and they say, I'm sorry, I'm not sure what you're talking about, the possibility that could go away entirely is suddenly available, which is fantastic. Now many of you could probably preach this next paragraph for me from your seats, because I like to blame the Puritans and John Calvin. And I do think it's true that what some of the teachings that the Puritans passed down to us have fed this, that their confusion about Calvinism, that Calvinism thought that some people were chosen and some people were not. And then, when that arrived in America, the idea that the people who were chosen would get assigned, so two confusions stacked up on top of each other. So that theology created a harshness toward ourselves and toward our collective culture. It means that there's a lot of checking to make sure if you're doing exactly the right thing, if your life is good enough. And it's a tough way to be with your neighbors. And it happens all over, well, it certainly happens all over New England, but it's everywhere in our culture. And I want to be fair to the Puritans. I'm trying to be kinder to my own heritage. I don't think the Puritans were trying to do this. I think they were after a religion that was deep and pure and transcendent. And they went after it in a way that ended up being harmful. And we live with the unintended consequences. And we still are who we really are, capable of that love and awareness in all moments. Why am I talking about self-hatred on Memorial Day? Because I think that one of the ways that we undo this self-hatred is to tell the stories that we have collectively put away, nationally and personally. And in a time when the sense of self-hatred is fairly strong in our country, I am trying to keep my eye on the places where that other way of being is breaking through, where the connection to the depth and the fullness of life, where the flow of living is coming through all of the madness. And when the old stories are hard to hear, it means that we have come through them and have the capacity to transform them. So someone in our congregation sent along this story this week, and I thought, there it is. There it is, the remembering of who we really are. The ability to step both out of and into a story. This is something that happened yesterday in Plainfield, New Hampshire. There was a small, just barely marked grave for Derek Oxford, who had lived during the Revolutionary War time. And Derek Oxford fought in the Revolutionary War and was a veteran of the war, and he didn't really have a proper marker for being a veteran of the Revolutionary War. And part of the reason that he didn't have a proper marker is because he was African American and had in fact been enslaved by a family in Plainfield for some time. So his personal story has this astonishing arc of going from being an enslaved person to fighting in a war of independence for a nation. Well, the town historian learned about his story and got to work on it. She thought, well, I want to set this right. He should have a proper marker for being a Revolutionary War veteran, and there's a much bigger story here. So she figured out how to talk to the VA and get the proper headstone built, which was difficult because it's been a long time and a lot of Derek Oxford's life story has been lost. But she kept working on it, that town historian, and she figured out who his descendants are, and she reached out to them and invited them to come to a ceremony in Plainfield that happened yesterday. And she also learned who the family was who had enslaved Derek Oxford and invited them to attend the ceremony that happened yesterday. And they were all planning to attend. They were all planning to be present for this one life that was being recognized and honored in a new way. And when I tried to imagine showing up for a moment like that, if it was my ancestors who had enslaved someone and I was asked to be present for that ceremony, I would have to wrestle with self-hatred. And I would have to work hard to be present for the moment of spring that was happening, for the connection that might never ever have happened and yet was there. I would have to really keep remembering who I really am and who all of the people in the moment are. And that is the work and that is the moment that will create the new story that's worth living. May we be forgiven for what we have forgotten and blessed with the remembrance of who we really are. This morning, I wanted us to dance that Elm Dance together. For this holding onto the goodness and awareness and love that is essential in people, without losing the difficult stories. The Elm Dance is a dance that we've done a couple of times as a community, and it will be brand new for some of you. It is a dance the music for the dance comes from Latvia, and the dance itself, I think, has been created more recently. And it was created because there were a group of people near Chernobyl who were affected when that horrible accident happened in Chernobyl, and they struggled to live with the pain of that story. They just wouldn't talk about it for a long time. It was so awful, they couldn't talk about it. And a lot of people went and tried to work with them to help them live with the pain that was there and continue to have their lives, as difficult as they might be. And they were people who had really lived with the trees and the forest, and because of the radioactivity had to not go into the forest as much. So the song, which we will do the dance to, is about the trees and the spring bursting forth. And the dance is to remember what has been lost, but also to notice what we have, to notice the connections and the joy and the sweetness and the greening that is in fact happening now. To hold on to both all the time. So this dance isn't done in a big circle. We'll actually probably do it in 2 or 3 circles outside. We started our month of May doing a worship service on the lawn spontaneously. We're ending the month of May dancing on the lawn together. It's a very simple dance, and I'll teach it to you once we get outside. It involves just stepping in the circles. Don't have to do any fancy footwork. And if you don't want to do footwork at all, there's a small circle of chairs on the lawn that will be right in the middle of our circle. And you could sit right in the chair and be the heart of the sun. Hold the center of the dance for us and be part of it without having to worry about your footing in the dance. So I'll invite you to join me. going out to the lawn. The musicians will carry us out the door with some songs, and we'll learn the steps out there for memory and joy.
Go out to
This isn't about perfection. It's about being together. The first time if you want to say about places that need healing, you're welcome to say those words. The second time you sing it, have the right words for gratitude. For the world, for yourself. And if you want to say words of healing in this first time, ready?
Hit när jag slår ner Sagi kamakayas, ignevians laileusing.
It's chilly. Yeah, she's gonna end it.
Thank you so much.
Through once without singing, so you can just listen to the flute and maybe get the whistle. We just learned this, so don't listen too hard. So we'll just start with you.
And you'll find the words to the benediction there too. Don't have them in your heart. Please join. Go in peace.
Speak truth. Give thanks each day. Respect the earth and all creatures, for they are alive like you. Care for your body. It is a wondrous gift. Be gentle with yourself. Live simply. Be of service. Be guided by your faith and not your fear. Go lightly on your way. Walk in the sacred manner.